This video explores death and dying within philosophical Taoism, drawing primarily from the wisdom of Laozi and Zhuangzi. Laozi, believed to be a librarian during the Zhou dynasty, is the alleged author of the Tao Te Ching, or Classic of the Way and Virtue. His name literally means an old master. The Tao Te Ching is an anthology of 81 chapters and 5,000 characters. Its structure suggests it may be a collection of sayings from various intellectuals, rather than a single author. The first chapter of the Tao Te Ching states, "A way that can be spoken is not an eternal way." It describes how the nameless is the beginning of heaven and earth. This passage highlights the paradox of the eternal way. True reality, or Tao, is beyond language. It exists as non-being before the universe, yet becomes the source of all individual things once named. The meaning of Tao is often described as non-being. It exists prior to the universe and is not perceivable by the senses. This non-being is not simple non-existence, but the unformed source of all being. Chapter 76 discusses life and death through analogies. When alive, beings are supple and weak. When dead, they are stiff and hardened. The supple and weak are therefore the disciples of life. Life is characterized by suppleness and vitality, while death is defined by rigidity. This principle extends to all of nature. A living plant is tender, while a dead one is brittle and dry. The chapter concludes that brute force and rigidity lead to failure. A tree that is too strong will break. In the natural order, that which yields is ultimately preserved. The conclusion is that life and death are a single string. Soft and hard are relative states. If there is life, there must be death. They are different frequencies of existence. This raises the question of what defines the boundary between them. Next, we turn our attention to the philosopher Zhuangzi. Zhuangzi, who lived around 399 to 295 BCE, is the alleged author of the book bearing his name. While his life is not well known, the inner chapters of the Zhuangzi seem to be written by a single person. The story of Cook Ding illustrates the Taoist principle of effortless action, or Wu Wei. The butcher, by relying on the heavenly patterns, acts with spirit and goes beyond mere technique, never encountering resistance. A famous anecdote describes Huizi finding Zhuangzi singing and beating on a tub after his wife's death. Huizi questioned why he was not weeping for the woman who raised his children. Zhuangzi explained that he first grieved, but then reflected that his wife originally had no life, form, or vital energy. A change brought vital energy, then form, then life. Now, another change brought her to death. He concluded that this change is simply the progression of the four seasons. Weeping would show a lack of understanding destiny, as his wife was now, quote, peacefully sleeping in the vast room. Zhuangzi presents the cycle of life and death as a transformation, from primal chaos to vital energy, then form, then life, and finally, a return to death and the source. Zhuangzi's equanimity comes from realizing life and death are phases, not opposites. By viewing death as the change of seasons, he strips away the tragedy, showing acceptance of destiny. In another story, Zhuangzi encounters a skull and asks what brought it to this state. He uses the skull as a pillow, and later dreams the skull speaks to him, mocking the, quote, commonplace chatter of the living. The skull claims the dead have a joy greater than a king's, with no toils or seasons. When Zhuangzi offers to restore him to life, the skull frowns, refusing to return to the toils of the living world. This anecdote questions the perspective that death is bad and life is good. Zhuangzi demonstrates that life and death exist on a single string. Our fear of death is simply a misunderstanding of the great transformation. So is death truly bad and life good? Philosophical Taoism offers a profound reevaluation of this assumption. Next, we explore the continuing Tao of death by revisiting Zhuangzi through a comparative lens, using the insights of contemporary philosophy. Martin Heidegger, the giant of death, is a German philosopher who placed the awareness of our own mortality, or being toward death, at the center of authentic life. This often creates profound existential anxiety. Comparing Heidegger's anxiety with Taoist equanimity creates contrastive clarity. Heidegger dramatizes death as a personal tragedy. Zhuangzi de-dramatizes it as a seasonal, natural shift. Equanimity is the mark of the Zenren, or true person, realized through effortless action. Like Cook Ding, the sage follows the natural veins of reality. They neither cling to life nor fear death. Milan Kundera noted that the death of a human being is a scandal. The death of an animal is merely a discrete disappearance. The Taoist sage aspires to this quiet, unstaged return to nature. The logic of life treats biological survival as the only unconditional good, pathologizing death. The Taoist response is the anti-logic of death, realizing death is a cycle completion, not a scandal. Zhuangzi's singing after his wife's death showed this understanding. He reasoned that she came from a, quote, primordial jumble and returned to it. Bawling would show a lack of understanding of fate. For Zhuangzi, death is not an end but the arrival of winter. Just as spring inevitably leads to summer, life leads to the rest of the cold season. To grieve is to misunderstand this fate, or Ming. The Taoist perspective views life and death as a continuous cycle mirroring the four seasons: emergence, fullness, retreat, and rest. Zhuangzi described death as his wife, quote, lying down peacefully in a vast, gigantic room. To follow her with sobbing would mean he did not understand the way. In the dialogue with the skull, the dead mocked the living's, quote, glib chatter. The skull argued that death offers eternal rest and a state of timelessness, free from the toils of life. The dream skull's refusal to return to life emphasizes death as liberation from the ego and the inherent toils of the living world. Heidegger sees death as the, quote, ownmost possibility leading to angst. Zhuangzi sees it as a natural return to the vast room, leading to equanimity and being at home everywhere. The perfect person uses her mind like a mirror, reflecting reality without hoarding or clinging. A hoarding mind sees death as a catastrophic loss of self, while a mirror mind accepts the natural movement of the way. Fasting of the mind, or Xinzai, is a spiritual practice to clear away ego intentions. Letting go of the logic of life unblocks the mind, allowing the natural flow of reality, the Tao, to return. Nishitani Keiji's concept of the Great Death is like the seed expanding until the tiny ego shell breaks. The Great Death is the emergence of the true person from the dissolved ego. Life and death are one story, a single string. The way involves accepting fate, or Ming, as a natural flow from the source, through life, and back to dissolution in the vast room.